Welcome to Authentic with Brazil 201. I'm your host, Brazil 201, and on today's episode, we're going to talk about Industry Season 4, Episode 6, Heated Rivalry. And I have to say, I think this is the best episode of Industry we have had in 36 episodes. And while every episode of Industry has been phenomenal, with the exception of the stupid Rishi solo episode, I gotta say, this episode has everything and made me feel all the feelings. And also, what a crazy Wes Anderson style ending. So, our episode begins with Yasmin and Harper going to a meeting and talking to each other. And it's very Blair and Serena from Gossip Girl, where they're frenemies. And she's like, "You should stop. I want to kick you out. Next time we're here, we're going to be enemies," and all that. And throughout the episode, Whitney is writing these Dear Jon Snow letters throughout the entire time. It's very like how Damon and Stefan would write in their journals during the Vampire Diaries. It's very interesting. And we have our odd heated rivalry moment where Jon Snow is showering and Whitney's just checking out his dick. And we get the implication like, oh, Whitney's going to pull out his cock and just fucking rail Jon Snow in the shower. But Yasmin walks in and is like, what the fuck is going on? And then Whitney leaves and apologizes. And Yasmin talks to Jon Snow and is like, he wants to fuck you, right? And Jon Snow's like, listen, there's no homo in school. Okay, we all sucked each other's dick in boarding schools, how it worked. And Yasmin is like, what the fuck? Okay, and Jon Snow admits he drank again, but just a glass of champagne, so he's kind of off the wagon. And Sweet Pea is about to it sets up a meeting to meet with the president of West Africa's tender thing for the next day. And then what happens is Jon Snow and Whitney and Jacob go to a fancy dinner, and then they go to a heated rivalry club. And boy, Industry was like, you like your little gay hockey show so much? Well, guess what? We're going to do gay finance. And Jon Snow sticks his dick in and gets it sucked by fucking, I assume it's by some random. And then Whitney is right behind, caressing his cock on Jon Snow's ass, and drinks a lot. And then Harper is speaking at the conference, the women empowerment thing, exposes everything about Tinder, how it's all funny money in West Africa and it's not real and the money's moving around. And Yasmin's flipping shit because Jon Snow didn't come. And we cut to Jon Snow and he fucks some fat chick. And we're like, oh my God. And then, the stocks begin to fall and it's collapsing and they don't know what to do and they're about to get margin calls. And they don't know how to bleed it because if they hit 33% down, Pierpoint is allowed to demand a margin call and demand solvency and a bunch of other shit. Then what happens is Eric gets Epstein filed, okay? That a video pops up on his phone of him fucking the Asian hooker. And what we learn is that the Asian hooker is underage at this escort service. I didn't know that. And then we learned that Haley worked at said escort service. And Haley is talking to Whitney because apparently Whitney has killed some of these hookers from the thing and they've just disappeared. And Haley's freaking the fuck out because it seems like Whitney's beginning to put his blackmailing in perspective and is starting to take pieces off the board. So that's what happens because Whitney and Eric are about to go on British CNN Caitlin Collins' show the next day to talk about the tender thing. And before all that happens, though, Whitney intercepts the guy who was CEO of West Africa Tender, and we're like, I guess something happens. He's like, you were poor before me, and I assumed he also Epstein filed him because we learn is that when Haley talks to Yasmin and is like, look, we're all from this escort service and we're put in rooms in front of powerful men and cameras are placed discreetly. And Yasmin asks, "Did you record us?" And Yasmin's like, "Yes." Whitney has a video of Jon Snow fucking me and you licking the cum out of my pussy. And then we assume that's the Asian hooker that Eric's been fucking that's underage is also from the same escort service as Haley. Haley wants to help Yasmin because she thinks Whitney's fucking a super villain, and by all amounts in this episode, he is. He is just doing some crazy shit. So, Whitney, Whitney and Eric go on British CNN on British Caitlin Collins show. They talk about a lot of shit, and he manages to get the thing about to new audit, and more margin calls happen, but stops the bleed a lot. Jon Snow fires their auditor because he doesn't trust their auditor, and then Eric has a lawyer come to dissolve all his interest in Stern Tao because he knows that him fighting Whitney meant the Epstein video of him fucking the underage hooker is going to come out. So he does this in such a clean way. He's like, always remember me. And he put himself for because he believes Harper can land the plane and stop this, save money for his daughters, put it into trust a bunch of other shit because it seems like Eric is going to kill himself. Because if the video gets out of him fucking an underage girl, underage hooker, whatever, it's all over. So that's what happens. Then Whitney gives the letters he's been writing the entire time that we've heard through the monologue to Jon Snow and says, "Dear Henry, this is what's been happening. You are implicated in all the crime now." And he calls Whitney calls some Japanese guy, and some shit happens. And then we see in the preview that it looks like Whitney wants to do a hostile takeover of Pierpoint. Very David Ellison right now on what he's doing with, industry's parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery. Phenomenal episode, I gotta say. All the emotions, great television, and it looks like we're all set that everyone's gonna work together to try to stop Whitney because Whitney is a fucking supervillain on how he's been secretly controlling rich people all across the world. And boy, crazy.